fifth one. My name is Harris. I am the Chair of Students' Council. NUSU Students' Council is using a hybrid meeting technology to allow remote attendees, in addition to being broadcast live on NUTV. For both existing and new members, I will give a brief explanation of how to contribute to Council, in addition to the information that is present both virtually in the meeting chat or will be shortly, and physically on the sheets on your chair. But I also encourage councillors to do a read of the standing orders before future council meetings. For those present in the room, you will need to make sure you are a participant on the Teams meeting and can access the chat. If you are not, please raise your hand physically and Nat will come along to assist you. Those online will already have access to the chat. And from this point onwards, anyone raising their hand physically in the room, it will be assumed that it's because you have a tech issue and not because you wish to speak and address the floor. During Student Council, attendees may only speak with a virtual raise of the hand to allow for equal access, and you do so by typing this desire to speak into the chat, which is an additional benefit to me as the chair by allowing me to know for what is the reason you wish to speak, and then I can prioritize you appropriately. Virtual attendees should be aware that the technology has been implemented in order to allow us equal access to opportunity at there is always the eventuality of a tech issue, either on our end or yours, that may impact the ability to contribute. There is a risk inherent with virtual attendance. Can always be accommodated, and if need be, we may have to move on without fixing the issue. The only acceptable ways that you can type into the chat to indicate a wish to speak when it comes to the codes, but there are two which you can raise at any point in the meeting from now onwards until its end. These are points of order and procedural motions. There are many of these, and as such, I will not explain them all. They're all standing in clause 10. However, the three most common and important ones are indicate a point of wish to raise a point of clarity, which is to basically ask myself as chair how NUSU works. So if you're unsure about any of the explanations that I've given you and you wish to double check, you will do so by typing a POC into the chat, and I will come to you and you can ask your question. Do not use this to ask a question to another speaker. You use a queue for that. A POC is to offer a neutral point of fact, and I will stress that because there are meeting which weren't neutral points of facts as much as you want them to be, in order to kind of correct a factual mistake someone has made prior. Add PM amendments to amend a motion. An example of that is in the cheat sheet. The other codes used, I will mention is relevant. So, on to the first, or rather the next order of business, which is minutes from the previous meeting. If anyone wishes to question the previous meeting, please type a Q into the chat. If you wish to object to the previous minutes, please type an A into the chat. I will give 10 seconds, and if I don't receive either of those, I will assume it is unanimously approved. That's passed. The next order of business is the steering committee report. Likewise, you have 10 seconds to either question or object, otherwise it's assumed to have passed. That's passed. And finally, in this bit is the scrutiny committee and disciplinary committee report. Same procedure, 10 seconds to question or object. Grand, and that is passed. I would now like to invite Abby Hutchison to the podium to present the State of the Union report.
Thank you. really sorry about that. Oh. But anyway, moving on to the State of the Union report. So, since last council, which unfortunately I wasn't here for as I had COVID, we have had a very varied term. We've had craftivism workshops, we've had Newcastle Come Dancing, which was amazing, and there have been lots of events and campaigns, and it's just been a really great term to see a lot of fun on campus, and something that I think we've all missed, so we've been enjoying that. I want to start by just sort of expressing our solidarity with Ukraine. We are putting out further information tomorrow on how you can contribute to the humanitarian efforts. But I did our statement in my State of the Union report that at NUSU we continue to be appalled, horrified and heartbroken by the ongoing war and humanitarian crisis inflicted in Ukraine. We condemn Ukraine, Russia and their neighbouring countries. As a survivor, we stand with the National Union of Students statement and we reflect on the point that the student movement was set up as a direct response to the First World War to prevent the horrors of war and pursue fair and just treatment for all. At NUSU, we have heard the voices of Newcastle students calling for collective action, and we wanted to provide a central resource for students, solidarity through action. Students have already begun fundraising and organising events to support the humanitarian effort in Ukraine, and on our website that will release tomorrow you can find all the information from our Go Volunteer team, NUSU clubs and societies, as well as information on our vigil that's taking place on Tuesday in solidarity with Ukraine. And as I said, this all goes live tomorrow, so you can find out more information then. So, what else has been happening within our North East community? Well, we had our Home Truths campaign launch in early February on that one, and it will be producing a report so we can make recommendations to the City Council. This is because we see housing as just being an ongoing issue for actual problem. So that the same questions aren't coming up every year for Sabbatical Liberation City. We also held yesterday the Shape of the City event, which is where students directly voice their issues to the council, and this is also being used with the Home Truths campaign to an action plan how we can better have student voice represented in the North East. This was also with Northumbria and Newcastle College, so there's been lots of collaboration there, and we've also been working with we are also responding to the rise in energy prices. I know this is really stressful at the moment. I saw it was doubling. It was awful, and I was very panicked, and obviously I have an income at the moment, and so as a student it must be even worse. So we know that we're working on the council. We've got you coming for you very equity on our campus. So we've been rewriting the student charter. It's basically a code of conduct, and at the moment it's quite accessible, and I think we forgot as a SAB team that a lot of us, we couldn't remember actually physically signing it, so sort of brought that to us, and we want to make it more inclusive and reflective of the university students want to see in our community. So also still working on the inductions, and a report is underway to try and make these more meaningful, especially in regards to consent and bystander intervention training. When it comes to the Decolonising NCL campaign, we've had further pledges from computing, psychology, and a pledge with the sustainability team, and we have also rewritten the website, and the updates are now being processed by IT. Strike support, we have been actively representing the Take Your University by with the lecturers' rights. Regarding their academics. We'll be doing this next week as well. We have worked with the university within an education continuity group, as well as with individual deans of schools, pushing to make a more standardised approach to the strike response from the university and make sure that you have special mitigations to protect you from the impacts of industrial action. This has been taken on their Nest platform to make sure that it's more transparent and ensure that consideration is made for those modules. Our advice to you, Liv, you might want to verbally add to this, is to report your individual circumstances to your school to make sure that you receive the mitigation that you are entitled to. We have also provided feedback on the PEC review to help improve your experience here. Okay, we also have academically questions surrounding equity in examinations and how we can improve assessment long-term post-pandemic. The university has agreed to work together, recognising that the new normal, I guess, should act on the lessons that we learned from the pandemic and improve the academic experience for all. On a well-being, activities and academic note, we are so excited to announce that we have secured funding from the university for students to have access to academic societies for the first 6 weeks of their uni term. It's first years, by the way, not everyone. But for the first 6 weeks, to attend academic societies for free, and so that we can help them to build a community on their courses, as we know that it's really important to have this sense of belonging on your course at the start of your university experience. Mental health and well-being, we have been expressing our support for well-being, looking to get assurance for funding to expand schools for both students and staff. Sustainability-wise, we have held focus groups with students to inform our strategic plan in the room, and we want to embed sustainability into our plan, and the current action plan has already been conscious careers campaign this week, and that has been amazing, just to basically, so we can all take action to try and combat the anxiety that climate change can cause us. We also in talks with Malaysia and Singapore campuses on how we can collaborate on social justice issues that affect us globally. Student digital experience, me and George met with NUIT and are presenting about the student digital experience in the next major governance meeting. So we want to present that directly to UIT and see that reflected in their plan. Refurbishment. As a team, we are thinking about how we can improve our facilities from an accessibility perspective, but also to help drive commercial. We're in the process of looking for a project manager to provide costing on this, and we are happy to be working with the university support, although we are very early stages, so there's no guarantees yet that we're going to have a completely shiny new union, but we're trying. Then that we've had our elections and we now have our SABs and officers elected, ready to move forward in the new year. Congratulations again to all candidates who raised over £2,000 for charity, and we engaged more than 4,000 students to vote, so that's amazing, and we can't wait to be here to give you any support that you need in this transition. However, we're not gone just yet, and what have you got to look forward to? So we're running a feel-good campaign to support you during exams, with a focus on well-being support, but also fun opportunities on campus that you can take advantage of in your study breaks next semester. Fergus is currently preparing a progressive active women campaign, as well as organising the reintroduction of varsity, which is coming back after April. We've already had approximately 2,500 students register with varsity, which is exciting, and we hope to see you all at the matches. Harris is currently organising Grad Ball, which had over 800 pre-registrations, and you're nearly sold out, Harris, aren't you? Yeah, so that's really exciting too. His Arts and Culture Festival is under planning for early May also, and we're so keen to get clubs and societies involved, so if you want to know any more, then just ask us. The focus is on good vibes, global citizenship, and creative careers, which have uni support. George, do you want to give us a student media update? Or are you happy? I know a lot of it was elections for student media, and it's a big thank you to all of you for for covering, because we know how much hard work that must be. So anyway, have a wonderful break over Easter, and we will see you all soon.
We'll just hold on a second. I think we're having some technical problems.
Just what else happening with speakers working? Oh, my mum. Just making sure that speakers are fine. Miles, put the aux screen volume on white light back to normal. See if it comes back on. Mute for now and see if it comes back on the next view comes up. Just kill that thing. We're just standing by for a quick in-person participant tech resolve. Shouldn't take too long. Hello. Yeah. Alex, were you wanting to raise something, or were you wanting to raise something now, or? All right. Thank you, Abby, for the report. Likewise, as before, if anyone has any questions they wish to raise, please type a Q in a chat, or an A for a objection. You have 10 seconds to do so. It got revoked. Yeah, George, you've got a question. If you want to approach from the mics for us, please.
Wondering, has I think the computer says no. I was going to ask, are NUSU considering / organising any kind of facilitating any teach outs within NUSU to kind of support students further within the strikes?
Abby, do you want to return to the podium? Question for us, please.
So I can see Owen sort of nodding in the background over there, but Owen has actually applied to campaigns committee, and it's been approved today, to run a student-led campaign next week so that we can stand in solidarity with lectures through an educational campaign. So Owen is in charge of that. Obviously, they are working with us as well, but yeah, we'll have. It's student run, yeah, student run. So if you have any suggestions, George, then I would say speak to Owen, and then we'll touch base with them.
Thank you. Abby, stay there if you want, please. Well, no, not if you want. Please stay there. No, please, as in, Abby, no, stay at the podium. I apologise.
I'm hopping again.
That was my fault for giving you a choice. I will repeat this in the future. Jack Train, you have a question.
It's not actually for you, Abby, but Fergus, you mentioned in
No,
your report about...
Sorry, no, then you can wait until questions.
Sit down, Jack.
Oh, wait, you've got a question.
Okay.
Okay, right, if I assume there's no objections, therefore the state of the union, I'm talking slowly, just gives people a chance to object, but I assume the state union report has therefore passed. I'd like to invite other SABs up to the podium, please, for questions and mandates. If you can just reintroduce yourselves. Milk it, second to last time you get to do it.
Woo! Hi, I'm Livia. I'm the Education Officer.
Hello, I'm Eleanor. I'm Postgraduate Officer.
Hi, I'm Bree, and I'm the Welfare and Equality Officer.
Hi, I'm George and I'm Student Media Officer.
Hi, I'm Fergus, the Athletic Union Officer.
Hello everyone, Harris, the Activities Officer.
And I'm Abby, I'm President.
Thank you. Owen, was your question one you wanted to raise at this point? You're quite right. Jack?
Fergus, in your report you mentioned about EU Boards, it's great to see it's returning, but you mentioned in it about we're taking up the whole Lancaster Suite, including the basement. I just want to confirm we're not actually planning to put tables in the basement, are we?
No.
Owen Lucan?
Question for Harris. As we were speaking today, and as you mentioned that you're sorting out the activity store, do you have any updated plans on what you're going to do with all of the rubbish that's coming out of the activity store? As I know that all the societies have to be out by the end of 2 weeks. And do you have any plans to mitigate the effects of other societies throwing out other society stuff, things getting damaged, things getting broken, a lot of things have been damaged? Your thoughts?
Right. Yes, I know activity storage has been an ongoing issue, and I've started this initiative where last week I sent out pictures of the activity storage, and there was this stuff which was identified by the exec committee as well, which was there for a quite long time and was irrelevant. So I've sent pictures out last week. I would have given 2 weeks time for the societies to come back and claim them. It's been 1 week, so I'm waiting for the next week to go out, and then I would go out and then sort the rubbish out. And then coming on to your question about sorting out the rubbish, I had a chat earlier with you as well, and then I had a chat with Graham as well. So we need a sift, I assume, a big large bin box outside of the SU, and that needs to be organized right about now. So there are very much events happening outside the in the SU right now. So I'm working with Graham to have a sift outside, and then I would give a call out to the societies, and then would work with them to throw the rubbish out. Yes, again, I think it's the responsibility of the societies, and it is their stuff. So I would try to make sure that I go with them as much as I can and make sure that they use their stuff or they take out their stuff rather than breaking down other societies' stuff.
Lizzie Mead?
Hello, I have a question for Livia. So you said at question time 1 or 2 Mondays ago that the attendance requirements for international students had been reduced to 50%. However, I can't find any information about this online, so where did you get the statistic?
Through a government debate, so it's not currently ratified or confirmed at the moment. It's just been in discussions with the government. So it hasn't come through official university policy at all. But the last I heard, I may be wrong, don't hold me to it, but the last I heard, my impression was that it was being discussed about currently being reduced to the same as home students.
Okay, thanks. It's just that at the debate, you made it sound as if it were an established fact that the candidates themselves should have known. That's all. So I was just confused. Thanks for clarification.
Yeah, no, really sorry if there was a misunderstanding there. It was more just to kind of give the candidates a chance to ask a different question, as they'd already answered that one before, and just kind of a bit of reassurance that is being discussed. As much to I was aware. Again, I don't control government, so they may decide to ignore it, but that's the last impression I was under.
Alex Walker? Please, yes.
I don't run. This is sort of for Liv as well. Kind of 3 questions, depending on the answers. So the Freedom of Information request about China, that was submitted in early December, you said?
My understanding at the time when I answered at council was that it had been submitted then. I later found out that the university hadn't actually received it. Okay. So I hold my hands up and apologise that I thought I was correct then, but unfortunately I wasn't. It's now been submitted and we're still waiting on a response.
Okay, just to notify council, pursuant to when that comes in. If it isn't answered within 20 days of being sent, it's in breach of the Freedom of Information Act 2000, so that's the point at which lawyers should be consulted and a case should be brought.
Yeah, I've spoken to Richard Davies, who's like the PVC of Global, and they're working on it now. So be assured that it is being worked on and they've received it and they're answering all your questions.
Was there a third? No? No. Yeah, no, it is, as far as my knowledge, it had been sent at the time, but later found out been a mix-up, I think, in some sort of communications. But it's been sent. As soon as we have it, we'll get it back. I don't think we've got a response yet. I have been off for 3 days, but we haven't, no.
George Wood?
I'm genuinely just asking because I'm interested. I was just wondering if there was a reason that 4 of the end-of-term reports are missing from the SABs.
Yeah, sure. I'll be honest. I'm burnt out. I'm really not well. At the end of last week, I was knackered. I had to take time off because I was unwell. I took 3 emergency days of leave. You can see my report on my laptop where I started it on the 4th of March, couldn't finish it, and I've been off for 3 days. I've done it today and put it in there as soon as I could. I've been in meetings until 3. I got it there as soon as possible. Really apologise. I put in my report that I do. I've never, ever missed one before, but hold my hands up and say life gets in the way sometimes, and it happens.
Mine is in the chat now, so I sent it today. I am sorry that it was late. I guess it's similar to Liv. It's just been crisis campaign after crisis campaign lately, and when you're in back-to-back meetings as well, on top of all of those things, and trying to prospect with campaigns as well, writing reports takes up so much time. Like, I honestly think between my State of the Union, which I was determined I wanted everyone to see that before my end of term report because I thought it was more important, but like between them it takes me like a good like 2/3 of a day to do, and I just don't have 2/3 of a day free. So I'm really sorry that you may not have had a chance to read that beforehand, but it will be on the NUSU website, as will all the SABs, so you can catch up on it. But it is in the Teams chat now, my one, so if you want to have a look.
Yeah, similar to Liv and Abby, mine is in progress. I think given the last week and the week before, I think I'd worked something in the region of 150 hours over those 2 weeks. So I was off for the first 2 days of this week, and then yesterday and today I've been trying to write it in between meetings, but it's been slower progress than I would have liked. We do have the media exec minutes in there, 2 sets of minutes, but my report will be out before the end of the week.
Yeah, my report was also uploaded today on the Teams chat and on the NUSU website as well. It's kind of a similar situation to Liv, to be fair. Like, I've known for a few weeks that I've been a bit burnt out, and then last week my body just kind of gave up on me and I got the flu. I then got food poisoning, and I had to take some of this week off because I was literally on the loo all day. And I got back, and to be honest, if I'm put in the situation where I have to prioritise a student's welfare, where I have to be giving them on-the-ground support whilst they're in a state of crisis and really upset, or backing up for them in a meeting, I've got to prioritise that over top of writing something. So I got it in today, and I'm really sorry it was late, but yeah.
We sound like a bunch of YouTube apologists, but like...
I'm really sorry.
Well, I am sorry, but like also I'm kind of not, because life happens. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one's perfect, so I am sorry, but I'm also like happy to not have an excuse. Like, it is what it is.
And I also think like sorry, well, like
Okay. I was just gonna say, George, like we had a SAB meeting this morning and we discussed the fact that we recognise that they weren't there and that wasn't acceptable, especially when we want liberation officers to be submitting their reports. So we do know that we fell behind a little bit this time, but I think you can see from everyone's authenticity that there were a lot of different reasons. So I hope that you can understand those.
Yeah, Abby pretty much said it there.
Cool. Any more questions?
That's my job. If not, thank you so much, staff. Ever except Livia, please tell Livia I need to stick off my chair while I invite the Liberation Officers and Mr. Chairs to the front to take questions from the audience.
That was speedy, Rowan.
I'm sure the rest already. Hello, my name's Alex. I'm the chair of scrutiny.
I'm George, I'm the LGBTQ plus officer.
Hi, I'm Nate. I'm the marginalised genders officer.
I'm Harris, I'm Chair of Council.
Has anybody got any questions? Please type a Q in the chat. Always.
Hello. Safe space. That is going. It's going. Bree and I, along with a couple of people from the School of Computing, had a little look at the space we've got to work with. Had a little discussion about what we're going to put in there. It is happening. It's kind of. Do you want to? Is it alright if Bree comes and just says a little bit about it?
Yeah. Do you want to breathe? Is that all right?
Yeah. It's kind of, as far as I'm aware, it's all. We've got some kind of ideas for resources that we're going to have in there, cups of tea and things like that, and some helpful signposting. Dates, which Bree might be, so.
So, there was a bit of a factor with me accessing, basically, there's a university form where I have to fill out everything that we want in that space, all of the kind of like building bits, getting internet in there, just like weird little bits. And I couldn't access that form for ages, and I had like gone to NUIT, I'd gone to like various people to get it out, and they took a little while to come back. Then I got access, and I got busy, but I pinky promised to everyone that I would submit it now. So we've got the request through, we get confirmation from the estates team basically. We can start with that, and I want to have it done. I'll be working on it in Easter with George and everybody else, and yeah, it'll be done.
I would just like to quickly add as well that I think my priority, and I'm sure Bree's priority, I think everyone's priority that's got a stake in this, of course, making it as a safe space, not just having a safe space on campus. But I think it's definitely a good start towards that, so we will be continuing work on that.
Cool. Miles, would you like to come up to a mic?
I have a question for Harris, the Chair of Council. Why do you think the turnout for Council today has been so low? And do you think it's anything to do with the fact it's St. Patrick's Day? I remember a couple of years ago when it was St. Valentine's Day, there was nobody there as well. Might it be something connected, or?
It might be.
I don't know. Is there a possibility of like scheduling council around these sort of mini holiday things, maybe, or?
Definitely think that has merit to it. It has precedence as well, because we rearranged council last year. It clashed with Eid, so that got rearranged. So there's definitely merit and precedence. There would need to be a council motion that someone would need to bring to council in the last council they have. The deadline for submissions will be in about after 10:03, right? Time for free. Yeah, there's definitely merit to it. If someone does want to bring that motion to council, they would need to give, I think, thought to a threshold of what would constitute a adequate versus any date note. Is my point there?
Well, St. Paddy's Day will be on a Thursday for another few years, so we're all right for a while. No one. Yeah, be fine. George Boatfield.
I noticed Scrutiny Committee had a fair few questions about student media's output over the last few weeks, and I just wonder why I nor any member of student media, as far as I'm aware, were contacted about these questions. That's all right. Probably be more direct in future to just send them to me. Yeah. Cool.
Just an FYI before I go on to the next questions, the international officers are online if anyone has questions for them. There's another cue from Kaylee.
Oh no, wait, I've remembered now. I put the cue in and then forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, just again, bit of a throwaway one. But is this actually the last council? Second last. Oh, I was going to say, I thought I'd have to do something special, like the one that was the last or something. The one with goodbye.
Cool, any more? Gonna say no, and thank you to our liberation officers.
Thank you, Olivia. Okay, so now we move on to. Yep, so now we move on to the officer report and executive committee minutes. These are already assumed as being approved, as no objections were raised prior to the start of the meeting. So those approved. The next are the liberation officer and NUSU chair end of reports and the SPAS officer end of reports. I have received an objection to this. Lewis, if you'd like to come to the front and propose the objection.
I've objected to all missing reports. If it is possible, can I rescind some of those objections now?
Yes.
I will rescind the objection to the President, Welfare and Equalities Officer, and the Education Officer, as that's due to either ill health or the reports have since been submitted. All of objections I will continue with.
Grand, thank you. This gets treated basically as a motion, so are there any questions to Lewis on why the objection's been raised? Kaylee, do you want to take a vote in the future? Please put a Q in the chat.
Continue with the one about the student media one?
Because the report has not since been submitted late, as the others have, and there was no mention of ill health.
Can I, second part of that question, can I ask why you haven't taken into consideration the amount of work that student media had to put in throughout the elections? Some of us were in every single night doing work, and I'm obviously sure that affected George and everybody else on the team, so may I ask that you take that into consideration, not only for George, but for everybody else who might not have had time to do that. So please take that into consideration. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? If so, please put a Q into the chat. Give you about 10 seconds to do so. Okay, thank you, Lewis. I'm going to take a seat. Are there any, so lack of motion, there'll be kind of speeches against or for sake of clarity, I'll use the phrasing speeches in favour of keeping the reports and speeches in favour of rejecting the reports. But if you can please type a F into the chat if you wish to speak in favour of reports, and a in the chat if you wish to speak in favour of rejecting reports. You have 10 seconds to do so. Okay, I would like to invite Owen to speak in favour of the reports. Sorry, could you just pause 1 second?
Sure thing. If I'm for the report, then I'm not.
So, just for the sake of everyone present, the current objections, unless Owen corrects me, are for the BAME officer, Parents, Guides and Carers officer, Disability officer, and Student Media officer. just to clear that up. Owen, if you'd like to.
I'm-
Can you put it in the chat, please? Can you please proceed, Owen? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused. So I'm against the objection and for the SAB report. I don't think they should be objected to. Should I put an...
in favour of the report?
Okay, so I did it right.
Yes.
Yay! It was a 50-50 chance. Yeah, speaking in favour of the report, one of the things that I believe Abby and a couple of the other sabbatical officers said during the debate, actually, about sabbatical officers overworking themselves basically to death, is that it is an incredibly hard job. And as George sort of articulated there, 150 hours in 2 weeks. I think that's technically breaking the slavery rules. Maybe NUSU should probably look into that and improve it. I think it's really kind of, to speak a bit emotionally, horrible to be objecting to such reports against specific sabbatical officers, especially considering you just decided that some people's mental health was bad enough to let off and some people's weren't. So I'd just, like to object to that and give my support to the sabbatical officers because it must be horrible. Cheers.
I would like to, Lydia, I assume you're not going to speak against the report, because I did overhear you say, whoops, I didn't
I meant lot, I didn't want to not put an F or an A and try and get wrong.
So to clarify, you're speaking in favour. Okay, I'll get back to you. Alex Walker, can I please invite you to speak to reject the report?
I think that was rather over emotive, actually. Nobody is doing anything to condemn the SAB officers or the liberation officers. We all think they've done a fantastic job this year, but how can a report be passed? We just pass over that when it's not been submitted. It's a constitutional responsibility. It should have been submitted, or apology should be given to council. So I think that this objection is about getting into that. So we're having a discussion about the reports. That's important. They haven't been submitted. I can't speak for Lewis. I don't know how he feels about it, but I think having this discussion is really important, and that's why I'm speaking in favour of the objection, because I think it's important that we have this out properly, and this also be looked into and continued, and maybe in the future we'll properly clarify that the date they are submitted on is the date they have to be submitted on, because I seem to remember them being submitted late in years before. So we're just affirming the process here, and we're not dismissing other people's mental health, and we're not dismissing other people's excuses.
Thank you. Brianna, you've got a point of information you wish to raise?
Just on behalf of the mature students and carers officer and potentially the disability officer as well, I know one of them's discontinued, that they've interrupted their studies and have been for a while, so it should have been noted somewhere that they're not in their role anymore, and I think the same might be happening with the disability officer, so that's probably why.
Thank you. Livia would like to speak in favour of accepting the reports.
Hi, yeah, so I'll be quick. I do totally appreciate where Luce is coming from in that when reports aren't submitted, it is frustrating and it is constitutionally our responsibility, and totally get that. I think my issue is that if it's just a one-off or every now and then, mental health is messy. You kind of can't, not mental health, but just generally life is messy, in terms of things like that. We didn't know, it wasn't officially recorded they're interrupting their studies, because the last thing we all want is when you're going through a crisis, somebody going, yeah, but council report, yeah, but council. Do you know what I mean? So I know that that's not the intention behind that, Lewis, but I just would urge maybe we talk about this in a separate meeting, maybe in the amount of reports that SABs and liberation officers have to do, and maybe amend it, or just because I think we accept it for now, because I totally get for you guys, you want to see what's going on. But I think to reject them probably goes against the message that was intended by the proposer. I think I'm using the right terms, but I just think, it just opens a messy debate that I think probably wasn't what was intended. I can't speak for them, but probably wasn't what was intended, and getting into emotive, crapping on people's mental health kind of vibes, which is not the intended vibes. Yeah, that's it.
Lewis, you wish to speak to reject the report?
I think the main issue we have here is that all that we get as a council when a report is not submitted is just this report is not submitted. If I had evidence that an officer was working, as you say, 150 hours, of course I'm not going to object to that, but I do not know if that is the truth or not. I do not know people's situations. I just have to go out on trust, or I have to do what is stated in the Constitution and object to that, because a report which is not submitted is a report that cannot be passed by council. If there were a better process for us to be able to confirm where there are reasonable reasons for a report not to be submitted, I would love that. But in the Constitution as it stands, that's not the way NUSU currently works.
Still a second, Lewis. Alex, is your question for Lewis?
No, it's a procedural motion.
Okay.
A second.
Right, okay. You typed the Q, that might be a mistake. For the procedural motion, if you can type what your procedural motion is as well, that'd be great. Lewis, thank you. You can sit down. George, can I take a point of order? Yeah. From the mic, please.
I would argue that questioning a member of council's integrity is out of order.
Okay. I'm not going to rule that as out of order. I'm not going to accept that to the motion. It's not similar enough to what's essentially happening here. No. Kaylee, do you want to speak for the in favour of the reports?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Lewis, are you on any of the exec committees for any of the SABs? If not, I shall continue. You can correct me after I finish. I'm sorry if you are. I just don't believe that the people who are objecting know as much as the hard work that like the SABs actually do. Like, I'm a member of media exec and we helped organize. I know I keep using the elections as an example, but it literally is like just to show how hard like these guys work. And we were in every night. Tech was being set up. Everyone who is doing camera tonight and doing any kind of tech knows how much work went into the elections and stuff. And I think to kind of belittle that and kind of just, because that's how it feels. It feels like you're taking away from these guys' work just because they haven't put a piece of paper in. Like, look around, look at what these guys have been doing. They are incredible, and I'm really, really proud of them. I think to kind of discount that, I mean, like, come on, George worked 150 hours. We guys, like, we were in when we have degrees as well to moderate debates and everything. So much work went into it. And I literally just feel like, look around, their work is more important than a report.
Okay, we'll shortly be moving to Lewis, a quick point of information. Yes, that's, yeah.
Education executive. Also, if steering, you would class him also on that.
The vote is being set up now. Once I get confirmation that's all done, we'll then move to a... Is there a question to the proposer?
It's about this. I'm a bit confused.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I feel like I should know what it is that the consequences of this is. But
Yes, quite right. So, if the motion, if council votes to accept the 4 reports in question, the accepted business carries as normal. If council votes to reject the 4 reports, then it counts as if they weren't reported in the first place, which for some of them will also be business as normal anyway. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Sorry, no. So it would count in the same way it would if they hadn't submitted a report, which for some of them, at least some of them, is the reality anyway. So I think the only thing that would change Was the student media officer included in the actual formal final order papers?
Was the what, sorry?
Was the student media officer report included in the final order paper?
No.
That's something perhaps steering needs, or scrutiny needs to address, but in my interpretation of the Constitution as it stands, so that would already be counted as a missed report, potentially. That might be something that needs to be... Joel, you got my information?
Yeah, I'm happy to vote about that.
No. No. Right, we'll move to a vote now. I think. Yes, go for it. No, we'll move to a vote. You're either accepting the business as it stands or you're rejecting the four reports. Can we pause? Apologies, that partially my fault. I changed the terminology midway through and I think I confused the system. When a vote restarts, your vote, ignore the question, well, don't ignore the question, I'm sure it'll be fixed, but for clarity, you're either accepting the reports or you're rejecting them, whatever the question says.
Objection is reject.
If you want to go ahead with loose objection, you're pressing reject.
So if you are
The question's being fixed now.
Apologies for that. I tried to clarify it and ended up muddling it, but that's life, I guess.
So what do you want to actually say?
The question. Just put the report. Does that make sense? No, it's not. No. Don't know the question. You have to option. You need to put text. The report. Things might have to not be done.
I asked her to email somebody if she felt able to. When she knew the answer, or just let me know.
It'll just be
The report, accept or reject. Okay, voting is now open. So you're accepting to let it pass or you're rejecting to agree with Lewis's objection? Well, we need 20 all votes to vote. Otherwise it doesn't matter. 22. Laura? Laura? Just check, it's still up for it, right?
Yeah.
So all 29 voters are still here. And that's what we need to pass. Yeah, that's okay, that's the voting closed. And that's passed. Okay, cool. Well, after that fun, we get to now move on to the motions. So the first motion that we have to go, well, the first motion was a business motion, and as no objections were received before the meeting started, that is considered to have been passed. I have a motion paper here somewhere, but I can't find it. I've got my computer. So the business motion has passed because no one's objected to it. So we move over to the first ordinary motion, motion 401, which is to, which will scroll down there. Support the local electricity bill. I'd like to invite Lizzie Mead to propose that motion.
propose this motion to support the local electricity bill by having, well, by mandating the sabbatical officers to get in touch with MPs to express their support for the bill. Basically, the idea of the local electricity bill is that it will make it legal and easier for smaller companies to and this will make it easier for communities in the UK to get on more renewable energy. I will also add that reached out to me to ask if I could do a motion about this, and they did give me some guidance on how to do this motion. I've looked into what they've been doing to support the bill, and I think they're doing some really wonderful work to promote renewable energy, and while I know that there are probably some varying opinions as to the extent to which this will enable renewable energy, since I think there is still more work to be done. I think this has a good shot at making some change, and I figured I would give council the chance to opine on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Stare. Please take podium. Lizzie, come back. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, can you please type a Q into the chat? You've got 10 seconds to do so. Okay, thank you, Lizzie. Okay, sit down, please. Discounting those three which preempted my invitation to do so, if anyone wishes to speak against or for the motion, please type an A or an F into the chat. Okay, I'd like to invite Owen Lucan to speak for the motion, please.
Yeah, I'm speaking for this motion because I think it's really important as we are trying to get ourselves out of the climate crisis. You know, one of the largest mass... Hello? To you too, Harris. Yeah. We are in the Anthropocene, which is a stage of mass extinction. The mass extinction has been going on for the past 30 to 50 years. I know all about it. I study marine biology. Yeah, this is really, really important because it's about building the facilities and power to the people, basically. As we all know, especially those who are local to the area, have been living in Newcastle for a very long time, the centralisation of power in London is pretty massive in this country. And giving facilities to local people is incredibly important, not just for protecting the interests of local people, because London is, well, central London democracy does not really care that much. It's really important to give that power over to local people and just empower those local people to sort of take charge of their own electricity, and it's like small groups and charities and co-ops like that, rather than relying on massive billionaire industrial complexes which don't really give a shit. Thank you.
Are there any against speakers? You have 10 seconds to make your intent known. No, in which case we can move on to a vote. There's a point of information from Livia Scott. If you wish to approach a microphone.
In the note, you know, when it says to inform the media, does that mean, like, are we talking...
It's not a point of information, it's a question.
Somebody type a Q in the chat for me.
A question from Livia Scott.
Thank you. You know when it says about like informing local media, obviously I know like it's for Liberation Officers, SABs, or are we talking just the Courier, or do you want like local, like the Chronicle and things like that? Like what happens if they don't pick it up? Because like all for it, would we be liable if they didn't pick it up? That's what I'm meaning.
Contacting some form of local media, whether that be the Courier or someone else, and just being able to show proof that you like contacted them and like tried. That's all.
Cool. That was just a question, just in case.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to a vote now. moving swiftly on, I'd like to again invite Lizzie Mead to propose motion 402, which is to facilitate opportunity for students to speak directly to university on issues of environment and ethics. You have a minute to propose the motion, Lizzie.
Hello, I propose this motion as part of my role as Environment and Ethics Representative, largely because I feel that in this role as Environment and Ethics Representative, I do not have the reach to advocate for all issues of environment and ethics. I feel that the university should be listening to more than one student on this matter, especially as whenever I attend the university's Environment and Sustainability Committee, I feel that they just kind of have me there so that they can say they listened to the one, digit one, close parenthesis, student voice, instead of the voice of students as a whole. So I believe that that it would be necessary for the students' union to advocate for a forum of sorts to be provided for a greater number of students, especially those from environmental societies, directly to the university.
Any questions from the floor? Got 10 seconds to let you know. George Wood? Can you make it a very brief question? That'd be appreciated.
Just quickly, Lizzie, I was just wondering, so is the intent of this motion for the SABs to support you or the SABs to do the things that you put in resolve? Is it like to support you in doing these things or to do those things for you?
In this case, it is for them to do those things in the hopes of establishing a repeating event that the university would be required to facilitate at least annually.
Okay, thank you, Lizzie. I'd like to invite any against the four speakers. You can down, please, sir. That's all right. Do you invite any against the four speakers who type an A or an F into the chat? All right, so welcome. Would like to come speak against the motion, please? You've got a minute.
Well, I'd just like to begin by saying I think that Elizabeth has done a fantastic job today. I know how difficult it is to bring motions to this council, and I think she's done brilliantly. But I just think that this motion could be done better through other means. I think that having a very, very large meeting that, well, you hope a very large meeting, but turns out people might not show up, and then you get there, hard to organise, someone's got to take responsibility, you've got to get someone down. It's a lot of stuff needs to be done. I think it'd be much better to bring a motion to the next council saying to elevate the role that Elizabeth is currently doing to a Liberation Officer role. I think that would be a better motion to bring than this one. And secondly, I think we have these structures. So we have this council and we have our process and stuff in order to represent students. And I think it does a fantastic job. It does a brilliant job, and we get a lot done here, as much as it sometimes might feel like we're not. So why don't we have this kind of thing managed through council rather than lots of people?
I'd like to invite Owen to speak for the motion.
Yes, I'm speaking on behalf. For the motion. Because I believe that there are many students, several thousand, who are very much not involved in the Students' Union, and although we would like them to be more involved, opening access for people outside of this sort of insular space is really, really important, especially because university executives, Chris Day, sits very, very high up in his building, very many floors above everyone else, and feel like there is a massive disconnect between what they actually hear and what the students want to say. And also just a point on Lizzie Mead, which I know she'll back me up for this, is that the Ethics and Environment Officer covers a very, very broad array of topics and issues. And it is so difficult to represent all of those voices, and there is a real importance in giving the floor, the literal floor, to anyone who wants to come and share their voice, because it's the sort of bureaucracy and the lack of accessibility.
There's no more against speakers. I'm going to now move to a vote. Question? No. swiftly on to elections. There are two places for all the roles that are currently on screen. I'm just going to quickly go over them all. Disciplinary committee is a committee that meets to address disciplinary issues. You get chosen, two other committees get chosen to address a panel. Screening committee meets, I believe, weekly now based on the officer report to basically go over union business and scrutinise it. Welfare Campaigns Deliberation Exec discuss, as the name suggests, welfare campaigns deliberation matters in the union, and meets how often, Bree, quickly from you? Once a month. And then steering meets just before council, either once or twice, to discuss council business. If anyone wishes to put themselves forward for any of those committees, please can you type your name into the chat. Whilst I'm going to leave that open throughout student notices, so if anyone has any student notices they wish to present, please have a queue into the chat. Equally, please type your name. We will be, maybe. Sorry. Type your name and position you wish to go for, or type a queue into the chat is what I am doing. Owen, you got a notice? No. Yeah? Yes, please.
There is another round of strikes coming out from the University and Colleges Union. There are 4 reasons why they're striking, one of which is they are massively overloaded. The vast majority of lecturers and teaching staff saying that they are working at, I think it was about 115, 120, 30% capacity, overworked to death. They're getting underpaid. They have not received, well, most of them haven't received a pay rise in about 10 years, and it's taking a real-time pay cut because they're not keeping up with inflation. There is massive disparities in the gender, race, and disability pay gaps across the university. What was the last one? Oh yeah, pensions. Their pensions are getting, pardon my language, fucked. There is 5 more days of strikes coming up. There will be lots of events being organised. Teach-outs, which is sort of like decentralised off-campus, although probably in the Students' Union. Opportunities of learning, mostly hosted by students, but also staff members as well. There'll be at least 2 banner-making sessions and campaigning workshops if anyone is interested. Yeah, ask me if anyone's interested with more details. Thank you.
Thank you. You've got a notice.
Yes, my notice is that I'm still looking for anyone who's interested in joining a yet-to-be ratified Frog Society or restarting People on the Planet. You can email me on Outlook by putting Lizzie Mead in the search bar and just emailing me with your interest, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you. We have 1 nomination for Welfare Campaigns Deliberation Exec, which is from Abia Bala Dubois. If anyone has any objections to this nomination, please type an A into the chat. You've got 15 seconds to do so, otherwise the position will be considered filled. The invitation to present student notices is still applicable. Okay, so no objections have been raised, so that's been accepted. 1 final student notice from myself, I guess. I'm desperately trying to work on my dissertation. It's a film. I need to cast the lead role. The character is written as a person of colour. It's hard to cast people of colour in North East. Apparently, people of colour actors don't exist in North East, or at least not in ways I can easily find them. If anyone knows anyone that is at all interested, no prior experience is needed, I'll be super appreciative. Just drop me an email. Amazing. Jack, you've got a notice.
Hi everyone, so just wanted to say a quick well done to myself and all the other candidates who ran, all the cycle officers helping us out. Obviously it's a massive stress that week. I think we all did amazing, also some amazing campaigns, so I just want to say, woo, well done.
Alex Walker.
Well, I hope you can rally yourself for another round of applause. Not for me. For Simon Jerry, our CEO, who there was an article written in the CEO publication naming Simon as one of the top 20 dynamic CEOs of 2022. There's a lot about Newcastle University Students' Union in there. I'll put the link in the chat so you can read it. But a round of applause for Simon.
move on to the open debate. Abby, if you wish to present it, please.
It's a bit of a heavy topic, this one, guys. I'm really sorry. But it's very important. So, yeah, appreciate you all sticking around. So, there's a bit of a story as to where we're coming from this. Misogyny is a hate crime has gone through the House of Lords recently, and it basically has triggered a lot of conversations about how our campus could be doing things better when it comes to sexual violence prevention. Obviously, that is a bit of a trigger warning there, so if anyone doesn't want to stick around, then don't feel like you have to. But yeah, basically, we would like to hear what more you think the university could be doing to make our campus a safer place, especially in reference to sexual violence. So I'm sorry it's not the most cheerful of debates at the end of the day, but it would just be, it's really important that we get some student voice on this, and we thought that coming to council was a really good way that we can inform our opinions. So thank you.
Thank you very much. If anyone wish to speak on the topic, please type a Q in the chat. It doesn't have to be a question, anything, just type Q in the chat and I'll invite you up. George, if you want to speak up.
Thank you, Abby, for a really poignant debate. I think it's so important, obviously, that we talk about this as a campus and more broadly as a society. I just wondered if you, Abby, would be able to just speak about. Obviously, you said you'd be interested to know what more the university can do to support victims of sexual violence. I was wondering if you might be able to talk about what they're currently doing, just so we can kind of see how that can be added to.
Yeah, so I suppose in general they're trying to reduce sort of hate crime on campus, but in specifically to do with sexual violence, they have employed, what is Jay's role? Sexual violence liaison and hate crime lead now, and they have a team of sexual violence liaison officers, so there's increased support. So the other side that they're also working on is wanting to improve reporting so they can understand exactly the scope of this on our campus. So from that side of things, there's a lot of work going on with report and support and wanting to try and build trust in that system, because the more things are reported, the more we can build up a picture and know sort of what's going on. Where the aspect sort of I was coming from is thinking about what it means to join our community at Newcastle and respect for others. And I would like to see changes around inductions and more educational workshops to do with consent and bystander interventions training, something that we're working on a report on at the moment. And the fact that at the moment this is a very optional thing at the start of the year. And there's a lot of evidence to show that it can reduce prevalence of sexual violence by having education. So that's another aspect of it as well. Obviously I don't work for the university, so I don't have their elevator pitch on the things that they do to try and keep us safe, but I would say that they're the main things, unless...
I can list a few
I'll swap with
I can list a few more things that the university are doing, but I guess, Abby, I wanted to ask, like, I think where this open debate is coming from, correct me if I'm wrong, is like, how can we take the preventative measures of tackling it? Like, I think Jay has come into this role, and the sexual violence and hate crime prevention lead. She's come in and they have come in and done a lot of really, really incredible things and kind of changed the dynamic the teams work. They've worked with It Happens Here and collaborated. They've helped us with the spiking work. And in terms of support, I'm not going to say that we're doing everything, because we're definitely not. There are so many improvements. I think something we're all really keen and aware of is improving the referral system from student health and wellbeing to other services. I think that needs a lot of work, and it's something I brought up a lot of times. But I think where we're really lacking as a university is the disciplinary side, but then also that prevention. So Abby, is the question more about how can we, how can we prevent misogyny and sexual violence, if that makes sense? Yeah. Cool. Sorry, I went on a bit of a ramble there.
Livia? Kaylee?
It comes down to welfare and people being aware of like the smaller things that go on, even just kind of like group chats where I know that sexual violence could come on both sides, but misogyny specifically within boys in group chats where they can kind of look down on women, trans women, anyone from the LGBTQ community. So I think it's all about, getting those conversations open and for people who are in positions of committee to kind of be taught how to recognise those small behaviours. So if something little is said, they can then investigate on something and then hopefully open up an investigation to say, actually, no, you can't be saying those things about women in group chats. You can't be sharing, unsolicited pictures of like without permission and stuff like that. So yeah, it all comes down to to me, it all comes down to those like little things that you can just help within the entire community.
Thank you. Before we continue, I need to actually go pray rather than adjourn council. If Livia, you can come and take up a chair and potentially close council about it after that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Just to...
If you allow yourself, you can.
Yeah, I'm going to allow myself to. Thanks, Kaylee. I think I don't want to speak as if we're Sab's taking over the debate because I want to know your ideas. But one thing, so I put through campaigns committee. I wanted to. I don't know if anyone's seen the video done by the Scottish Police and it's 3 lads, and it's have you ever called a girl darling? Have you ever and they're asking questions of themselves. It's very similar to the one done by the Mayor of London that's came out recently. I really recommend you go and look it up. And there's another one by the Home Office. And I had a whole plan, a script, and I wanted to do it from all the sports teams. And they were all really keen until I actually came down and was like, I want people to come and do it. I want men, particularly. And we were going to do it in the locker rooms. It was kind of to stamp out locker room culture of just have you ever done this on a night out? And speaking to girls, being have you ever been nervous to go to training in small shorts in the summer? Because I know I have. Things like that. And then as soon as I mentioned it to lads, and this is not pointing the finger at anybody, they all got scared and were like, no, I'm not coming out saying them things, even if it was from the script that they created, because it's the fear of I'm incriminating myself and the cancel culture. And I just think it's interesting that me and Fergus have been trying to get this done, and everyone's in agreement of it in principle, but actually coming to stand up and be the one in front of the camera, we got the point, me and Abby were going to make our boyfriends do it, do you know what I mean? Forcing them to do it. But I didn't want that. I wanted people to be willing participants, otherwise it's just a really hollow message. I don't know, I just think there's something interesting, and I'm not pointing the fingers and doing the whole not all men thing, because I know it's not all men. I wouldn't date a man if I thought it was all men, but it's just that there's something going on where people don't want to talk about it and don't want to actually be the one to stand up and be like, crap, I've done that. Because there's things I know that I've done maybe in the past that was not all girls support girls sometimes. I made a comment, I'm that's my internal misogynistic voice in me that I've been brought up to think. And yeah, so I think, I don't know, just a little food for thought, if anyone agrees. I think there's something bigger going on. But yeah, I'm going to shut up and let someone else speak. Alex?
Well, that sounds like a brilliant thing to do, Liv. But I think you're wrong to say not all men. I think a really important part of this is acknowledging that there is a kind of a problem. That means at some point over the last 10 years, if you're 21 years old, since you shot up half a foot and grew a moustache, you probably have said something really bad. And you are probably scared. and acknowledging that is one of the most important things. But I wanted to speak actually about sexual violence because I had little experience with the complaints process, i.e. electing not to do it, because I didn't understand how it worked, or because I didn't want to, because I was a bit scared. That needs to be pushed out more. That needs to be pushed out on rotes, just how the process works, how you get involved, how you do it, who you speak to about that. Because if you are a first year or new student, or if you've not really engaged, you don't know that. So that needs to be hammered out and into the student population, how that process works.
Thank you very much. We have a question from George, Fabri and Abby. Just gonna... Is there a person you'd particularly like to ask more than the other?
I'll ask the question and then I'll see who wants to answer it because I think it's appropriate for both. That's kind of two questions really. Firstly, just with the group chats and things like that, that's something obviously that's really important. I know that I am actually the owner of one of our biggest group chats in computer science, and we, like, my particular chat has a really strict policy that people have to agree to before they join, which obviously includes all of this stuff. But I think that, you know, maybe there has to be, obviously it's really difficult for us and for staff to get into these group chats and see what's going on. So I think maybe an encouragement of whistleblowing could be part of the process to get inside those chats. The second thing I wanted to ask, which was more the question for you two, is I know that you're doing work on mandatory consent at the moment and kind of putting a report together for that. When I've heard it spoken about before, it's been kind of introduced as a induction thing. But that kind of misses over 2/3 of the student population. I really think this should be rolled out for everyone who is currently at Newcastle has to do it, and then everyone who joins us has to do it as well. So I kind of wanted to ask what your stance was on that and if that was what was actually going to happen.
Be speedy as possible.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. And to be honest, there are a lot of questions around this. Part of the reason why I wanted it to come to council is, like, even when it comes to something like this being required, which is the terminology that we're using, there are a lot of concerns in terms of like how operationally that would work, in terms of whether that's what students really want and things like that. So I would actually I know I'm throwing the question back at you here, but I would encourage everyone to have a think about that and get in touch with me, because we'd love to use your thoughts in our report as well. I think at the moment, and a lot of the conversations I've been having with the university about inductions is giving students things at the right time. So, like, for instance, yesterday had a meeting with the council, and we were saying that, like, you get told maybe in the first week that, oh, Newcastle City Council's here for you, but like you don't need them at that point because you're a first year. Whereas like with this is something that is obviously deeply embedded misogyny, and it's something that does need to be, like, as you say, like reinforced. But I think it's just at the moment, the university would need to take a real step into being like progressive and a leader on this. And so the conversation is still very much open, is what I would say. I'm aiming for induction because I think it's something that's achievable in my term, but there will also be further recommendations. I think that there needs to be like a full-on credit-bearing, like community development module where we talk about issues like sustainability and respect for others and how to be actively anti-racist and all of these big social justice issues that students care about. But I'm basically starting with this because if I can get that door open, hopefully it will mean that we can keep pushing and make things better.
If you're interested, look up Edinburgh Uni have a current like module, community module that's like not mandatory, but it's credit bearing. It's quite interesting if you're interested. I have two more quick questions. One from Lizzie. Well, not questions, just ideas.
Well, one thing which I think would definitely help to tackle sexual violence and misogyny on campus would be to ensure that people against whom there are allegations of sexual assault are not allowed to have positions of power in student organizations, and in particular when women come forward with this information, they should be listened to, and it should not be assumed that they are lying. Other than that, I think there are plenty of other things that we can do, but that would be a good first step.
Thanks for that. And then there's a question, well, not question, idea from Jack. Training. I couldn't see you there.
Yeah, I just want to talk a tiny bit about males who are victim of sexual assault, because it does happen, and I know everyone here today is not, we've not talked about it, but it's just I really want to sort of emphasise the point that, unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, I was a victim of spiking, what the intention was of that. I just really want to emphasise that it is all genders, it is for everyone can be a victim, and anything that goes forward, we really need to be aware that it can't just be for one group of people, it needs to be for everyone. And really, any sort of training, everything that's going out there, I'd really emphasise it's just to emphasise the fact that we are all human and we are all there together.
Thank you. Brilliant, thank you for that. I know it's quite a heavy topic, but it's quite helpful for us just in kind of, it's been an ongoing piece of work, and I'm sure the next teams of SAB and Liberation officers will continue it, but yeah, thank you. So I'm going to officially close this council and thank everyone for coming. There's some drink tokens if you come and collect them from Connor, first come, first served. Get your pint of Guinness, get your Skittles, all that. Please clean up your rubbish before you leave. Please, Bree doesn't want it this time, but just clean it up. Thank you.
Thank you for the pen.
Not just alcoholic, they do work for non-alcoholic.
Sorry, I should have said they do work for non-alcoholic.
Yeah, but I'm not the chief of finance.